Hi and welcome back to the Polymer Clay channel. So today I'm going to do an awful lot of talking. Now I think this video is going to probably be about an hour and I'm so sorry. However, I want to be able to put out a video once rather than doing it in two parts. I am not the sort of person that will watch a part two, and because of that it's all in one. So firstly, I apologise. If you want to watch it in two parts, you can. I will try in editing process to put like chapters or links in the description so you can skip to certain parts, because I know a lot of people out there don't like watching long videos. I am very different, so you will see quite a long one. But anyway, this one is a chatty video all about tools and what I make and how we make it and how we put it all together. As a side note to my intro here, just so you know that all of the videos now that you can get, and this is a standard YouTube thing, you can actually dub all of the videos. What I will say is if you do dub my video, bear in mind that sometimes I don't speak English and therefore I speak slang language, or I just come up with random stuff that it is AI generated and it may not translate correctly. So just so you know that. I was thinking about this a little while ago and I thought, yeah, I need to mention this. So on to the video where I talk about my tools. So here we go. Let's see. We're going to go through clays and then tools. I've got everything here. So I'm going to talk about all of these things and give an idea of where, well, what we do, to be honest. I'm going to try and do this, so I'm going to be doing less editing. May not work, this may be worse, but we will see. So let's start with clays. Now clays, they come in all different sizes and shapes, and now I use Fimo, and I used to call this Fimo. So yes, I knew it was, I knew the background and the story. However, I always called it Fimo, and I corrected anyone that called it Fimo. I'm going to call it polymer clay because Fimo just sounds weird. But anyway, this is what I generally use, on the basis that it is a brand that the UK quite often stocks in shops around my local area. And yeah, to be honest, this is what I use quite often. However, there are other brands. Sculpting I've used, Cernet I've used. These are all really, really good. Now, I've used soft. Now, these are generally right out the packet and good to use. What happens is that when you get something a little bit older and it looks a little bit like this. Now, this is, I mean, you can snap it. It's not going to do anything. It literally will crumble into pieces. So one of the main things when you're starting with clay is sadly conditioning, and that is, I'd say it's the bane of everyone's existence, whoever works with clay, and it is one of the things that I kind of like doing. It's therapeutic for me, I don't mind it, but this is how I do it. Now, cutting through this, I can feel that it's actually not too bad. Now, this is a really old one that I got from a kit. So this was sort of like, it's a quarter, I think, of what a pack would normally be. And I start with cutting it all up, basically. And that's what I'm doing. So I chop it all up, and it is going to be in very small pieces on the basis that I want it to be as small as possible so I can then push it all back together. Now that sounds a bit counterintuitive, and it is in effect, because what I find with squashing one whole piece together like this, it takes longer, but I'll show you how I would a softer piece in a minute. But I would chop this all up first. If you are going to do this, I do recommend doing it when you're, I don't know, watching a movie or something, because it isn't the most fun thing to do. But I wanted to do this because I've had this piece of blue clay hanging around for ages, and I've kept it aside because I thought, well, you know, I'm going to show you how I do it. And I have showed it in some videos where, you know, I just kind of speed through it, or sometimes you may not even see it, explaining about the way I cut clay and the way I roll it and condition it. but to be honest, it's nice to talk through. So yeah, you'll have to excuse all the squeaky blade noises and the chopping, because of course I am talking all the way through this. Right, so we've got it into a bit of a dust. You can see some bigger pieces here. I'll try and get them in smaller pieces. This is a really bendy one, tissue blade, and this one's a bit longer, but as you can see it's a bit older, and this isn't as sharp. This is one of my newer sharp ones. I use a mixture and I'll go through those in a sec, but I kind of just do this until I can see a little bit of dust, a bit like that. So then I put it all together. Sometimes this is more messy than it looks, on the basis that depends on what type of clay you're using. This is bog standard baby oil, and I just put a little bit on there, and this is the mission of putting it back together. Now firstly, the best thing to do is get the oil over everything, and this is where the messy bit comes in, because not only are you going to be covered in tiny little bits of clay, you are going to be covered in oil at the same time. So this is where you coat it all, and then you can get a general idea of whether it's going to be a pain in the butt or it's going to be easy. So let's try it. Let's get this together and squash. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to literally squash it all back into one hand and make a mess. And this is why sometimes you'll see everything all over my desk, because yeah, situations like this. So I just gather it all up. Now the desk I'm working on is a rise and fall desk. I got it from Amazon. It was about £300. I invested in this because I was fed up with trying to rearrange Betty the Boom Arm, which you can't see, but that's what I record with a phone. So yeah, I was so fed up with trying to move that around, and I get it into a certain position and then I don't know, it doesn't always work. But anyway, I just thought I would try it out, which means the desk can go up and down, and then I can zoom in or zoom out and keep the phone nice and steady to record. But yeah, also this thing has a glass top, so I can do all of my craft stuff literally straight onto the desk, which I absolutely love. The last one that I had, well, let's see, when I first started doing tutorials, I had almost like a bureau type thing, and that had a wooden top, so I always had to have a tile on top of that. And you know it, everything used to fall off, or I used to have to constantly clean the tiles and things like that, so it was really difficult. But yeah, this is absolutely lovely. I love it. It was the best investment I made. I will do some show and tell kind of, or I don't know if you call it a show and tell type thing, but I'll do a kind of a view of where everything's set up. It isn't pretty. I'm gonna warn you now. Where I work is not pretty, not from the other side anyway. So my sort of lounge, so where I live is in what they call a mid-terrace in the UK. So lots of rows of houses all squashed together. Basically open plan kind of living room situation. They're very small and skinny, and they go far back, so they look a bit like a TARDIS. So they look really tiny, and anyone that watches from the other side of the pond, is that what it's called? The other side anyway, would probably think, how on earth do we live in these tiny places? I've been to America, but it was back in 2003, and I saw the most beautiful houses, and I absolutely loved them. However, where I live, so I'm in the dining room section, so it's kind of like the back end of the house, whereas before I had a craft room, so it was like a spare bedroom. So I found that a lot easier to contain noise, and except for my disco neighbour, as I called her, and I found it a lot easier, whereas here we do have wooden floors and there's a lot of echo, and yeah, so I struggle a little bit, to be honest, but I am doing the best I can with this. I'm still reviewing how everything works, and the lighting and stuff like that can be a little bit difficult sometimes. As you were warned, I did say I was going to waffle all the way through this, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. because, you know, as you can see, it does take a little bit of time and effort to kind of get the clay squished back together, and that's why I'm waffling through. So I really do like this desk. Like I said, it is great to throw everything around and make a real mess, and then it cleans up really nicely. So let's go back to the clay. As you can see, it's now squishing, and this is one of the main things how I check to see if the clay is going to be any good. If I've got it to this stage and it's still messing about and going crumbly and falling all over the place, I would put some more oil. Generally, I don't give up very quickly when it comes to conditioning clay, because that's part of it, and that is just what you have to do when you work with any types of polymer clay. Some are a lot harder. So old style Fimo was a lot harder, so that takes a lot more conditioning. The softer clays are good, but it just depends on how old they are. I buy a lot of older clay, or certainly second-hand clay. Very rare do I buy it brand new, unless of course someone's buying it for me, and then it's completely different. My birthday's coming up soon, so I'm hoping to be taken to a nice craft room or something. A nice craft shop somewhere to buy some cool stuff. The majority of things, talking of that, I normally buy on Amazon, and a lot of what I use is also linked in my description. So as you can see, I've just chopped it in half, and the outside is really nice and soft, but the inside, as you can see, is really cracked and rubbish still. So put them back to back and squash. And what I call this is turning it inside out, because what will happen is you'll end up all the soft stuff, or the softer stuff, on the inside, and the more crumbly on the outside, and then you begin re-rolling and squashing. Now I feel that this is a really good way to describe how you'd condition clay. Clay works from the oils in your hands, and that's how it's conditioned, which is why after using polymer clay, it is best to give your hands a good moisturize, because it does leach out all of the oils in your hands, believe it or not. And my nails are really long at the moment, so they are going to get clogged up with lots of bits. I don't really like it when my nails are this long, but there we are, here we go. Again, all of the jewellery that I wear, I don't really care that they're clogged up with clay half the time. I don't generally take any of this off as a very often, and as a general rule I just give them a good scrub afterwards. Okay, so you can see that this is now getting nice and squidgy. I do not believe this is anywhere near conditioned yet, so I'm going to do some rolling and pushing. That's really important, and making sure. Okay, so this is where you get some heat into it, and I like to roll it like this. If you roll it closer, you end up with a weird shape. So if you're looking for a ball, you won't get a ball if you do it like that. Do it like this, and then you'll get more of a bowl. More of a bowl? More of a ball. Okay, so it's a good stage now. Chop it in half, and you can see that it's not too bad now. Again, back to back and push, and you'll see it's cracking a little bit here again, a little bit here as well. So this is a good way of doing it, and you can basically do this blindfolded. So if you are watching something on TV or something, you can do this and you won't really realise that you're doing it. It's just kind of natural to keep doing it until you get it to a stage that's good enough. And I do this fairly quickly from this point on. So I'll roll it into a ball, then I'll re-chop, squash, roll it into a ball, chop, squash. So I'll do quite a bit. And the reason for that, and it's, well, the reason for that is because it's just quicker. So I roll it, and I'll probably do this one more time, and then you'll find that it's not cracking as much. Again, this is quite old clay. Okay, so the next test is now this one. Roll it into a log, push down at the same time. You can generally feel if it's breaking up on the inside sounds like it's breaking up, or it just might be my knuckles, I don't know yet. This is the test, so I do that. I wanted to show you actually it cracking, because it will crack if it's not conditioned properly, but this seems to be pretty good. So that's one of my other tests as well. Will it bend, will it fold, will it crack? Now there are a few tiny little cracks here, so squash. And of course you wouldn't have been able to do this to start off with. You would have had to squish it all completely. And turning it inside out, as I call it, works really well because you get both sides, so you're not just conditioning the outside and then finding when you're halfway through something that you've got a cracked middle. Okay, so I think this should be done now. That feels good. Now sometimes if the clay isn't conditioned on the inside, you'll feel it sort of, as you roll it, you'll feel it sort of crumbling on the inside, and at that point I would just roll it back up and recondition. Now, considering this was a really old piece of clay, I think this is a good, I want to say 15 years old, easy. And then I do this, just to give it that. Yeah, so there is a bit of cracking there, but there's no crumbling, and you can squish it still. It's hard. I mean, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's not crumbly, it's tough, so it's going to be a strong clay for doing detailed work. So this will work for that. I'm just going to roll it and see one more time, see what that feels like. Yeah, even though it is separating a little bit, it is conditioned because I can push it in. So there, that is how I condition clay. Now, moving on. I've got lots of balls here and lots of bits. So I have basically a tile of where I keep scraps, and I've got a mixture of all sorts of things on here. This was kind of like what I was using for the houses that I did recently. So I have lots of different ones here. Obviously this was chopped up for when I did the house and I did all the flowers. And I generally keep this kind of small tile you know, separate, so that if I want any particular colour and I want a little bit of it but I don't want to get out a new packet, this is exactly what I will do. And I cover this in foil. I have got some here, it's just normal foil, and I cover it because I do have a lot of dogs, as you know, and I don't want all of my clay to be covered in dog hair. But yeah, generally I will cover them up, and this is how I store it. I know some people store it in their packets and some people use like sandwich bags or something like that. I don't like doing that, on the basis that sometimes polymer clay actually chews through the bags, and yeah, you can't use the clay after that. So but yeah, mixture of clays. These are all different types. I have mixed Sculpey with Fimo, and I've got a big mixture here of clays all ready to be rolled into one. Anything like this, for example, will probably be put into that and rolled. Similarly, something that's covered in glitter that I don't know what to do with, that will all be here as well. So I go to this and then I can think, oh yeah, I can make it out of this colour or that colour, and yeah, keeps me in check. So this will now go right in the middle, and when I have chance I will roll these all up into neat balls like this one, and then I'll know what colours I've got, and you know, if I need any more tiny pieces. Sometimes these are ones that I've mixed as well with chalks, that sort of stuff. So yeah, that will be that. I think that is mixed with chalk because I don't have a colour like that normally. But yeah, so those are how I kind of store while I'm still working. Let's look at this one. So this is a Fimo effect. Now you can tell whether clay is going to be good in terms of softening or quick in terms of softening if you push the corners in, and you're able to do that. This one won't take very long to condition at all. I'm not going to do it because I've just shown you how to do that one, but this is right out the packet, and yes, it will crack and things like that, but you can have a general idea of how easy it's going to condition by pressing in the corners, and it'll be the same with this one as well, this little piece. And you'll know the minute you've got it into kind of like a more rounded shape, you can roll it quicker. So that is that one. Right, I had to take a break there because my mic died. But anyway, there we go, never mind. Right, okay, let's move on to tools. Now I've got all sorts of stuff here. I've got these. I'm trying to keep the noise down because I'm obviously really conscious that everything's going to be picked up. And I'm not going to be able to fast forward through any of this because I will sound like a chipmunk. I very rarely use these. I think I've used these maybe twice, and as you can see, they're bent. You do get them in like a pack. I've never used them, so I'm probably not going to talk about those because they, I suppose they're good for like, if you want a wiggly line on something. I've never wanted a wiggly line on something, so I haven't used it. I'm now thinking that perhaps if I was making an angel with like strips of hair, maybe that would be good for the edges of that. I mean, I always come up with some random reason to use something I've never used in 3 years. But yeah, so I've barely used these, but I always use tissue blades. If you go for a Sculpey brand, you do get a nice kind of like handles for them. I like these are really good. But as you can see, there's a load of dust on it. And I haven't used it for so long. These are good, but as you can see, I've bent this one as well because I quite often do curvy things and that sort of stuff. So yeah, this is good, but as you can see, I haven't used it very much. With these ones, due to have handles as well, which is why there's holes here, and you could put these handles on any of them. But of course, some of them that I've got here actually don't have handles at all, and these are just very noisy, very basic tissue blades. As you can see, they are also very well used. I've got my favourite one here, which I was just using a little while ago. Why it is favourite is because it's very, very flexible and hasn't really bent much. But yeah, really like that one. And then I've got a few more here. They're all basically similar, all slightly different in lengths and thicknesses as well. So that is a really good point, actually. This one's quite a thick one, whereas some of these ones are actually really thin. I have got more that I bend, so if I want to do something that I'm going to be doing a curved kind of like background for example, I'll use this one, whereas some of these I don't bend at all. So for example, this one isn't bent at all, and I will use that for straight cuts only. So I've moved those out of the way and done a cut on the basis that that would have been really, really noisy for you. Okay, so we've got Sculpey. No, these aren't Sculpey tools. These are Fimo tools. I said it right for a change. I have used these quite a lot, to the point where these are probably really, really old now. You're talking probably about 15 years ago I got these, so as you can see, they do last a really long time. I am due to get another one of these because as you can see, this one is actually bent, so I do need another one. So yeah, these are Sculpey tools. I don't use them that often, but they're great if I'm smoothing something out. This one for some reason has got some sort of I think it's got liquid clay on it actually, but yeah, these are quite good. They're worth the money is what I'm trying to say. These ones are definitely worth the money. I've got some other ones. These ones are Sculpey. Yeah, again, this one's very dirty, but yeah, this one's a Sculpey one. Really good kind of I want to say good quality. Yeah, good quality in terms of kind of the feel of it as well. I can show you some other ones. Now these are slightly cheaper. Well, I say a lot cheaper actually. These are very heavy, but they don't support, like for example, this part in the middle is really thin and not long enough for me. So it really does depend on how a tool would feel to how you use it. Now this one is a lot heavier than this one. And I was quite happy about that because on the basis that if you, on the basis that if you wanted to make a really, really big kind of marking in it, so it went really round, and then say you wanted a smaller version on the inside, so I don't know, you're creating an eyeball or something, you could then do it like that, so you could have like a gradient kind of look to it, and that works fine. I don't use these very much, and I probably really should. I've got quite a few of them in here. I've got one like that, a slightly smaller one. I do like them. They're very, very heavy, so therefore to me they're, you know, worth getting. I think I got these from Amazon. I will list them in the description if I can find them. As I said, they are really, really old, but yeah, good weight to them. The only thing I don't like about them is it's really short, so I find holding them a little bit more difficult, and yeah, other than that, these are actually really, really good. I'd forgotten about them, to be honest. Okay, so here are the next ones. You'll see me use this one a lot. I absolutely love this one. Great for poking holes, great for bare eyes. I use this for bare feet, creating kind of like dull marks. I absolutely love this. Don't know why, but it is the best one that I've ever bought, and I haven't been able to match that at all in any kind of other tool. This one does it okay, but if you notice the difference here, this one's kind of like a small bit in the middle and then it sort of tapers off, whereas this one's really flat. So, but I love these. These are a Stadler one, and you can hear my dog barking in the background, so I'm going to take a break. Right, I've never used this one, and if I do, it's only because I can't find that one. But yeah, this one is okay, I suppose. I don't know why, because I'm looking at this and the markings are exactly the same, which is so weird. I notice a difference, but when I'm actually using it, yeah, so odd. But anyway, this one, I've never used this part here, absolutely never, and I've certainly never used this one either. Again, perhaps I could, looking at that, maybe that would actually be really cool to use in something. But yeah, these come in a pack, so I actually really recommend these. These are really good. Like I said, plastic, but they're the best plastic tools I've actually ever used. Okay, so let's talk about these little wooden tools. I do use these quite a lot. You will have seen these in my tutorials. When I want a tiny little dot, I use these ones. They are absolutely filthy, but I absolutely love them, so I'm going to show them to you anyway. A lot of the things that I use will be dirty on the basis that I use them a lot, and yeah, I recommend them on the basis. This one's got a kind of like a medium-sized dot. I use, now I keep losing them. Now where have they gone? I had them here a minute ago. Here they are. So these ones you'll see a lot. These ones are by Studio, and I think these are a Sculpey brand. I think they are. I use them a lot, but I like to use a mixture. This one is a really small dot, whereas these have got lots of different kind of what am I talking about? Not shapes, you know, different sizes. And these are really tiny ones on this side. But yeah, this one's my go-to. It's got a pointy rubber bit, and then on this side it's got a flat rubber bit, and then a fairly sizable dotting tool here. But again, with all of these, they're all kind of different, and they will all do different sizes, and also different sharpness as well. So that is a good point to make. The bigger ones have a tendency to be not as sharp. There is probably a chance that I should be zoomed in right now, so let's do that. These ones are more rounded, whereas the smaller they go, the sharper they are as well. And it just depends on what sort of look that you want in your creations, but I recommend all of these. I've had these wooden ones for a really long time. It's always difficult to know whether they're going to be any good before you bought them, but I recommend them, and if I can find the link, I will put that in the description as well, because they are all really good. I think it might be worth actually me mentioning these. I was just looking through these. These are not really great for clay, on the basis that clay is quite often a lot harder. Let me grab something that I've just conditioned. If you can look here, it's not making any dent really. It's not doing much at all, and it's, yeah. So I've only found, I mean, even though it's creating a little bit of markings, it's not something that I've ever used. Yeah, so it's not fabulous. And this one, if you can hear tippy tappies, by the way, that is Link. He's walking backwards and forwards being a Link. So and yeah, so I haven't really found any use for these ones at all, and I don't recommend these. They were cheap, but to be honest with you, they yeah, they haven't been very good. And likewise these ones as well, very cheap, very light, and yes, they probably do work, but for me a tool is also how they feel as to what they do. And I know that sounds a bit crazy, but these haven't been great. I haven't really used them for anything. The only thing these could be good for is picking up glitter, for example. That's a good scoop. Other than that, I haven't found anything like this particularly great. And I'm very much, when it comes to a tool, I'm very much the sort of person that would be based on how good they feel and also what they do. So yeah, although they look good, I haven't really used them. I've got them, but I just don't use them. So I'm back, and today is another day, and my mic ran out of battery, so I had to wait for that, and then it was late, so I'm back the following day. Anyway, I want to talk about these tools. I am going to keep them as still as possible because my mic is probably going to pick up a lot of clacking, and I don't want to destroy the experience, so I'm going to pick them up really gentle and then see how we go. I've got some scrap clay here to talk through what I do with these tools. I absolutely love these tools. They are dentistry tools, obviously not proper professional grade, obviously, and I got these from Amazon. I think these are actually linked in the description, and if they're not, I will link them because they are really, really good. And then also I have a couple of my trusted blades. Now I don't use this very often. However, these ones are really good because you can change the blades on them. This is a really, really small one, but it is ridiculously sharp, and really, really good for fine cuts. But like I said, I don't use this very often, and I really should, but I prefer this one. Now, again, when I was talking about the weight of things, these have got a really good weight. I don't know why, but I've got a fascination with how things start again. But I've got a fascination with how things feel, yeah, if it's too light, then I don't know why, I just can't work with it. And again, I use this a lot. You'll see this in my videos. These are ridiculously sharp, and the reason why I like them also is because in this little thing here, I've got some replaceable blades as well. So, and these are oiled, so when you keep them like this, they're actually oily. So I don't know whether that's to do with, you know, keeping them sharp or what, I don't know. But yeah, I don't change these very often, and this one is actually covered in glue so I probably should change this. But yeah, this is why I absolutely love this one. They unscrew, and again, I should have linked this in the description, but yeah, I totally recommend these for polymer clay. They're absolutely brilliant, and they're really I mean, I've had this for years and years, but I absolutely love this one because it just stays put in there. It's strong, it's got a good weight. Like I said, it's got a good weight to it. You'll see this a lot when I cut out things like with fine detail. The majority, when I'm doing big cuts, I do use a tissue blade. Sometimes this one, it's nice and big, but as a majority I will use this because it is just absolutely fantastic. So that's a little bit about the blades. When I was going through these and pulling out all my tools, and this one's another one that I use. It's got the little handles, but this is a really, really tough one. And as you can see, I don't use it very much because it's gone a bit dusty and a bit dirty. I do generally clean them. But yeah, I don't use this one very much. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because it's not very big, but it is sharp. But it's sort of like it's thicker, if that makes sense. Whereas some of these blades are actually really, really thin. This one's a thick one. And I do prefer the really, really thin ones. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's just because I like a bit of flexibility in the blade, and I can do curve things and that sort of stuff. The other thing I used to use was this one. Now I think you use it like this. I mean, I haven't used this in a really long time, and you know, that was really good when it was not blunt. It is a little bit yeah, it's blunt, this one now, and I think from what I remember it's the same sort of process. You unscrew that and put the blade in, but to be honest I haven't used this for a really long time. I think maybe with this one it's because it's really short, and I know it's supposed to go on your finger like this, but I don't know, I don't reach for this straight away. I'm not really sure, but this is a little bit blunt now. And then I've got these blades. Again, when you get blades like this, they are generally oiled a little bit, but these are really tough ones, and they are also quite thick, so it really does depend on what sort of thing that you're creating as to what you will use. But yeah, I've got tissue blades absolutely everywhere. In this little pot of tricks, for some odd reason I've got one of these, but these, sometimes you don't need fancy tools, you just need something random, and that'll give you a nice cross. I haven't used this, but you can use this for steampunk things, for example, and you can get some decent crosses, you know, so you don't need to use, you know, fancy tools for polymer clay. I've got a little screwdriver, so you kind of like, well, like I said, I haven't used this, but sometimes it's great for when I'm got some tiny screws that I need to undo for tools that I use, for example. There's a drill piece in there, couldn't tell you why that is. But yeah, these ones used to be in one of my sculpting tools, and certainly this one, well, it fell out, but because it's so good at drilling holes in baked polymer clay, I use it. I've kept it basically. It came out, I don't think it's broken, but it did come out. And then I found this one, which is not anything to do with any of my tools, but because I found this one really good for making smaller holes, I decided that I would put this in my kit. I think it actually is a drill piece, but I loved it so much in doing sort of smaller ones, I thought I would just grab a slightly bigger one. Now with these ones, obviously, yes, it will work, and if you drill it into a piece of clay that hasn't been baked, it will create a nice hole for you. What I tend to do when creating holes in things, I will grab something like this and make a dent in it, so I know where the hole's got to go, and then I bake it with it like this, and then when it is baked I will then use that as a marker as to where I want the hole to go. I do this for two reasons. One, I mean, I don't ever drill through soft clay, you know, unbaked clay, but I do find that this gives a really nice clean hole once the polymer clay is baked. Sometimes I will go right the way through and make a hole like this and go all the way down to the bottom, and then I will make it bigger like this one, and I've done that a few times. You do then get a bit of a weird shape, so if you can flip it over, go all the way down until it makes that noise, and yeah, then I sort of smooth it out, and then you get a nice big hole to hang up things. Now I never put any hole close to the edge, because in effect what you've got then is this tiny bit here that will hold up your clay piece, and it puts a lot of strain on this bit here, so I always bring it down a little bit. Or the other option, if I'm making something that is fairly big, like I did my houses, I put a hole on each side of it and then hang it up that way, so then it balances, and that's how I do it that way. And quite often it sometimes looks nicer with it hung up, you know, at the top, but for safety reasons, for it to not fall down or break or anything, it's best to have the weight distributed between either side. Okay, so let's move on to the other bits and pieces that I've got on my table here. Okay, let's just get rid of all of those ones and those ones. So we've got lots of tools here. Now I'm going to pick out my favourites. This one, I bent it, but it's absolutely brilliant. I am going to zoom in a little bit so you can get a good look of all of these. I've just got to make sure I stay in the middle here. Okay, so this one has got a bit of an end to it now, because I don't know what I was doing, but I bent it. But this is absolutely brilliant. It is just literally a solid piece of metal that's got a really sharp point on it. Very good. Good for stabbing things. Again, this would be good for making piercing holes where you would need to hang something up. It's going to give you a nice sharp hole basically, and the good thing about this also is that you can put it through, and obviously as you can see it's thicker, but if you want the hole bigger and bigger, you could just push it through that little bit more and you will get a bigger hole. So I absolutely recommend these. They are absolutely brilliant. So that's that one. Don't use these ones quite so much. I have got glue on this one, so I'm assuming I've probably used this to move super glue around a little bit or something. But yeah, I don't use these ones quite so much. Again, a nice needle tool here. Part is great, but this is so light and it feels so cheap. And again, yes, it does the trick, but again, it's not something I'll pick up straight away because of how it feels. And I know that's weird. I know that's weird. But yeah, I absolutely love that part of it. But generally I will go for this tool if I'm making some holes, and this one's sort of to mark it, if you like, so that I can get an idea of where I'm going to put it. Okay, what else have we got here? A lot of these, again, I don't even know what I would use that for. I have got a scoop here that I absolutely love to use for glitter, and again, these are all from the same pack, so I got these all together, except for this one. I think that came separately, but I will try and find a link for it if it isn't in the description, because I definitely recommend it. So this one I use for glitter. It's just a scoop and I absolutely love it for that reason, and it's got like a pointy thing on the end here as well. Again, that doesn't do anything pretty fantastic. It does a small kind of curve, if you like, I suppose. It doesn't do anything particularly special, but I do absolutely love this one for the scoop. Okay, so I had to cut there, so I've got no idea what I said and what I didn't. So these ones, I don't tend to use these ones. It's so odd. I have all these really great tools, but to be honest, I've got maybe 5 or 6 that I use on a regular basis. These ones would be great if you're doing sculpting, and a lot of these will be good if you were using clay that is air dry, for example, or using pottery. These would be great for pottery because you get lots of different markings with all of these. I always look also when I'm using tools that you can use the edges. So for example, this one does a really great pattern. Again, you know, it's sort of fairly, you can't see it probably on the camera, but it's not just this part or that part that I would look at in terms of the tools. I would look at what the actual design looks like and whether it would be useful between here and here as well. Okay, so I've put everything away because that would have been really noisy. And what I'm going to do now is show you rolling pins. Now, you'll know from my tutorials that I do not use a pasta maker. I have had some troubles with pasta makers in the past and I find them really difficult, or pasta machines should I say, and I just prefer a roller. I have 2. These come from a baking section in a craft shop in the UK called Hobbycraft. I would much prefer to be in America shopping in Hobby Lobby, as everybody knows when they meet me. That's where I'd want to be. However, what we have here in the UK is Hobbycraft, and these come from the baking section, so sort of cake making section. These are acrylic and heavy, again going back to the whole how do they feel thing, and absolutely brilliant. This is what I use for smaller projects like this one for example, and then this one for bigger projects. And yeah, it does take me a while. It takes me a lot longer to condition, but I'm here for it and that's what I do. So they're the rollers. I've just flattened that piece so you can see it does a really good job. Sometimes a bit of a workout because, you know, polymer clay is, let's face it. But yeah, I don't mind it at all. So let's talk about paintbrushes, which means I'm also going to show you mica powder and then the difference between mica powder and soft chalks. So I've got loads here. I use this one or the bigger ones to dust off. So I use these generally not to do anything, you know, delicate, because they are really bendy and fluffy. This one I was gifted and it was years ago, so I have no idea where it came from. But yeah, it's just a really nice. These are synthetic, so they're not like, you know, real hair or anything. But yeah, these are really good, and I generally use bigger brushes, including this one. As you can see, it's a bit beaten up and this one as well for bigger projects. And I think I've laid that down funny because it's now wonky, so I don't know what's going on there with that one, but I was gifted these ones as well, so again, have no idea where these came from. I've got a feeling these ones were artist ones, so this says Pro Art on it. And that one says inscribed. They look quite old, so this one is also Pro Art. And of course with that, these probably aren't supposed to be used for polymer clay, but these do actually work really nicely. So they're the bigger ones that I've got. I've got some weird looking ones as well. Never used this in my life. As you can see, it would be pretty useless for polymer clay dusting, because sometimes you need to actually push it down, and I'll show you why that in a moment. But yeah, this would be kind of useless. Okay, so I've got a mixture here, and I'm going to grab out all of the blue ones, because these obviously all came from the same kit. and these are really good and not expensive. These are brilliant. I use these all the time. I've probably got more somewhere in the pot. Yes, I have, but there's so many. I bought two lots on the basis that when I use a colour, I'm sometimes a bit lazy while I'm still doing the project to not wash them straight away, so I'll just go for the same size brush and I'll use that and wash them all at once. To wash them, I put them in some washing up liquid in a jar with some warm water, sometimes hot water depending on what I've put on it, and leave them overnight and then stir them around a bit and then rinse them off the following day, and they are just fine. So yeah, general normal paint brushes. What isn't normal is these ones. Now these are makeup brushes. Now I knew that makeup brushes would be better. Don't know how I knew, but these ones are really cool. They're very fine but also really like compact. So obviously they're designed to put makeup on your face. So therefore they have to be, I don't even know if porous is the right word, but they have to obviously pick up a lot of product to put it on your face, and that is why they work really, really well for polymer clay. Now I'm going to give you a demonstration. I am going to pick this random colour here, and I'm going to show you what the difference is between patting it on gently and then like pushing it in. So this would be gentle, this would be how it looks. I'm just going to see if I need to zoom in here. Is that going to be rubbish, or do you need to see it close up? Yeah, let's do close up. Okay, I've done it close up. So this is sort of gentle, and you know, you've got a bit of a shimmer to it and it looks quite nice. If you want the heaviness of any type of mica powder, you push it in and you keep it in that area, and you keep making sure that you're pushing it all in, and you'll get a thicker coating, and it will cover and colour the piece of clay that you've got here. So if I carried on with this piece of clay here would go a light blue instead of the sort of, I don't know, blue tack sort of colour that it is at the moment. And I don't like this colour at all. I think it's horrible. But yeah, so this is scrap, so I can do what I like with it, but I would probably colour it in. Now again, this is a similar colour, but if I went, say for example, for a bright pink, and I am going to choose a different brush on the basis that that's kind of what you're supposed to do, but I might use the same one if I was just doing it for a video. Again, lots of pink, pressing it in, and you will end up with a pink piece of clay. The one thing you can actually do as well is mix all this up so that you will end up with a pink piece of clay without all of the mica powder shimmer on top of it. As you can see, it covers completely, so you'd think that was a pink piece of clay. The brand is, I always call it A-NRZO, I don't know how to pronounce it, it's A-NRZO. It says the tagline or the box instructions, it says that it is made by artists for artists. I've never forgotten that, because I was like, how cool would that job be? But yeah, so I thought this was really, and I've used it ever since. So this is really good stuff. So there you go, it's completely covered. Now again, you could do it lightly. Again, you could do sort of a sweeping motion and put a little bit on, and then get a fluffier brush, and then literally, oh, this has got something else on it, clever. Anyway, as you can see, you can kind of dust it on. That wasn't a very good example, but let's see if this is a clean one. I must have missed that one when I was cleaning. But you could, let's turn it over. How about this? Let's try that, and then, yeah, so you can have it so that it really, really light, and it wouldn't sort of cover the clay completely. It just gives a kind of indication that pink is there, whereas as you can see, this stuff will actually cover the clay completely. So it's brilliant stuff. Now I don't use any particular brush for any particular thing. I've got lots of different shapes, lots of different sizes, and it will just depend on what I'm putting on it and where. So this one, for example, is a really dense brush. I've got no idea about makeup. I don't even know what you would do with this when it comes to makeup, but what I can tell you is when it comes to clay, this is brilliant because it's really dense and it's got some strength to it. So for example, if you really wanted to get that blue in there and really move it around with some weight, you know, to it, you'd be able to do that with this brush. And you can also blend as well. That's a good point. blending them in together would work really, really well. So you'd end up with this kind of mixed colour in the middle, and obviously where the brush was dirty here, I can also mix that in as well. So yeah, these ones are really, really good, but they come with the set. I've got so many because I bought 2 lots. So this is by, it says Empora London. I either got them on TikTok or I got them on Amazon, and again I will link them in the description to tell you exactly where when I've worked it out. I think they were Amazon. Yeah, they're not expensive. I think I paid about £8, £9 for one set, maybe less, I can't remember. I will let you know that in the description, because these I recommend these. They also do come with tiny brushes as well, this sort of size, really small, and some kind of I think this is like an eyeliner brush, or I don't know, something like that. But anyway, it does lines, so it's really good for that. So that is mica powder. Now, because can I use this one? Yeah, I can probably still use this one. Okay, let's do a similar test. Let's get some bright pink, and this is soft chalk. The soft chalk that I'm using is by A-NRZO, and I think that's the way you say it. Now, I'm just trying to look for my knife. I always normally have my knife floating around, but of course, because I'm talking my way through it, I'm trying to keep everything tidy. So let's grab some of this off. That was probably a horrible noise for you to hear. And then what I will do with a thicker brush, so I'm looking for a dense one. Again, these ones are really, really good. I'm just going to check that it's actually clean. Right, so with this one, pat it all in, get it all in the brush, and then pat it on. And again, this does absolutely amazing stuff with covering the clay. The difference is with this one, this will be matte. So this is good for flowers. I used a lot of soft chalks when I was doing the house a little while ago, and you can pat it on and then you can smooth it out at the edges and make it a little bit lighter, or you can pack it right in there and get the colour really, really deep. You don't, as you can see here, you don't really need a lot. I've got way too much here for what I needed, and it does an absolute brilliant job. Okay, I'm gonna have to have a lot of brushes washed by the end of this, I think. Right, let's go for a completely random, let's go green. Okay, let's try green on this. I don't know why, but I always miss the, I don't want to shave off the number or the brand. I don't know why, so I always go on the opposite side or one of the other sides. I have no idea why, I just can't do it. And again, as you can see, patting it on. I love this stuff, it is absolutely brilliant. I've used a lot of different things, but when I use mica powder a lot, what I was finding is that it was really shiny and shimmery. It works for some things, it doesn't work for others. So if you're making something that you want sort of more realism to it, you know, it's better to have this sort of soft chalks. As you can see, also that is that the one? Yeah, so that is mica powder right there, and you can blend. So you can blend the two together. So for example, if I was doing flowers and I wanted mica powder on the flowers, but I wanted green on the leaves, but I wanted the green, you know, to be matte, you could mix and match them, so it works out quite well. I am going to roll this into one colour, so I will also show you what it looks like when you put a lot of mica powder in one. I think I can probably do that now. So let me turn it a different colour completely. I am going to go for brown maybe, or I want copper. Is there a copper one? I think this is, yeah, this is my copper one. I love this. So let's move that out of the way. This is where I get really mucky. You don't see any of this because I cut it all out, but yeah, this is a waffly video, as I said. Let's put a load in the bottom, in the middle there. Oh, that's way too much. See, look, less is more. I have to remember that. Less is definitely more. Okay, I haven't learned my lesson. I don't think I ever will. Okay, so with this one, nice big fluffy brush, pat it. And I have used definitely too much. I probably could have done this with a quarter of it. So what I'm doing here is literally covering it completely and getting in all of those, you know, marks. It will pick up everything. So if you've got a few marks in it and then you put mica powder on it, it will then highlight it. So I generally do the mica powder after and then highlight this with what I want. So I either work on it so that if there's a pattern on there and I want it to shine up and, you know, make it obvious, I will pat it down and do it this way. But sometimes I will only highlight. So if there's a pattern on it, I actually don't have a stamp or anything here at the minute, but I will get one in just a sec. Yeah, so as you can see, I've used way too much. It was blue, it was pink, it was all sorts of colours, and now it is bronze. When you roll it, if you do both sides and then you roll it, you'll end up with a weird mixture for a bit, and then once you roll it, it will then eventually turn this colour. So you'll actually end up with a piece of clay this colour. It won't be as shiny, so it'll be more dull, but yeah, you could then use that on any other project. So any clay that you have left over, this is what I don't like this colour at all, as I said, so I'm quite happy to really mess it up. But again, any extras that you want to layer, so the pink, you could layer this with the bronze as well, and then that turns into a nice purpley bronze, which is really lovely. But yeah, there's so much you can do with a mixture of both. You could then basically go back in with green and a bit of bronze as well. Let's try that. Green there. Yeah, so then you've got like a greeny sort of bronze as well, so you can use soft chalks with mica powder and do both, and it works out just as well. Right, I have grabbed some texture mats and also other bits and bobs. Now we'll see also when you start mixing polymer clay with mica powder in it, you are going to have a little bit more of a tough time softening that back up. And I'm going to do this hopefully in real time, just so I can show you. As you can see, it's not meshing together anymore, it's looking a bit weird. So squashing it really hard and eventually it will go back together. But what is really good is if it is cracking, imagine this. So if you squish it somewhere and then roll it out, you'll end up getting a really nice pattern. So I don't make jewellery quite often, but if you do make jewellery, look at this. You'll end up with this kind of shimmery sort of looking. Let me just zoom in. I think that would be a really good idea if you could see this real close. You get this kind of cool looking pattern. I mean, this is just bits and pieces of something that, you know, and you could use this. You could cut this part out and then have the sort of the blue shining through. But yeah, eventually this will go into one colour. I generally stack it all up and roll it, and eventually it behaves itself. I do a lot of this off camera because if you saw my videos all in full, you would be sitting watching a YouTube video for about 4 hours. Some of the footage that I have from things I make are very long, and that's not fun for anybody. So I do appreciate it if you are listening. If you are watching, I do appreciate it, because this is not ones that I do very often, on the basis that I do find them harder to film because I've got to think about what I'm going to say. I don't script anything, so what comes out of my mouth comes out of my mouth. So yeah, as you can see. But yeah, I do appreciate you watching. This, look at that. How cool is that? Now, if I wasn't, this is why I film everything. If I mess around with clay and think, oh, I'm just going to try something, and I don't film it, it comes out looking so cool. So look at this, for example, that tiny little piece there would be really good. And this is just on scrap clay. So as I said, it is a bit of a pain in the bum to put back together and get it sticky again so it rolls, but you do that, you get there eventually. So, and if you carried on putting more mica powder on there, you would be able to have it the exact colour. So you just literally keep rolling. Any kind of blue pieces, cover them in mica powder again, of which other colour that you like. I do like a bronze. It does look really pretty, and it does look really pretty with every colour as well. Look at this part here. You'd never be able to recreate that ever again. You know, but just getting a rough idea of, even if something looks like it's going to be rubbish, keep going. I always say this. I'm not precious when it comes to things about polymer clay. I just mess around with it and have a laugh, because you never know where things are going to turn out in, you know, you never know when it's going to turn out really cool, and that's why I film everything. So I do keep filming for a really long time and capture everything that I can. And then obviously some things, you know, you may not see because it's obviously took too long for me to do, or I've had to cut it out because, you know, it didn't make sense or it went wrong. You know, things go wrong. But as you can see, a little bit more of the blue's coming out now. It's going a bit of a funny colour. But again, you can add more into that and eventually you will end up with a bronze piece of clay. That's how good those mica powders are. Okay, so now I've got it flat. Doesn't matter that it's got colour on it. Let's take this. So this is a really old one. As you can see, I don't wash it very often. Use it and then throw it back. But again, let's push this one down. Now, it's quite hard to do this, so I use the end of this and I hold it steady and then push it in and make sure it doesn't move the best it can, and then that way it all goes in. I do need a little bit of force. Rolling this would make it shift, so I tend to make sure it does go in and while I'm keeping it still. Yeah, so rolling it would make it shift, so I tend to hold it and do this. Sometimes you'll see this on my videos, sometimes you won't, because you can't really explain this unless I'm talking you through it. But okay, so we've got some pattern on this now. This looks really cool. I always lift it once I've patterned it, and then reshape it. So anything that I think, oh, that could do with pushing that back together and getting that shape back in. Sometimes if I'm doing this for, say, a little dolly or something, or an angel, things I make quite often, I do make this sure this is really thin. Obviously this is quite thick as a test, but I will push these all back together so they don't look smudged, and then I can use as much of the pattern as I want to. Okay, so now these are the differences. So what I would generally do if I wanted just the highlighter part, I would pat this on so it catches the top and not the bottom. So it's going to catch the top pattern, and then you'll still see the blue underneath. And I would do it like that, for example. The other way, again, you can do it, is to block it all in there and get every single part of the pattern, and make sure that it's all coloured so it does a mixture. And yeah, if you want the colour to shine through, sometimes I do this with bright pink because it looks really nice with bronze. So for example, that one's dirty. let's go with the bright pink, and again pattern it all in there. Again, this will look different on the basis that it is soft chalks and not mica powder, so you're not going to get the shine. But what you could do afterwards is brighten that up with a top layer. I haven't got any here. Oh, I have, yeah, I've got some on my finger. You could then brighten it up. Okay, this is probably a hard cut because I can't remember where I got to. I had a break. Someone knocked on my door. So I'm now heavily pressing this into all of the patterns, and you can see with this you've got the actual pattern itself and nicely covered in. Again, you can still mix this with some pink if you wanted to. That's going to go a bit of a weird colour, and the pink on this side is not going to cover it completely, but of course the bronze will. So that is the differences of how it looks. So this is completely covered, and then this is with the background still showing. Either works, it just depends on what you're looking for. So let's go and have a look at, this was one of my newer ones. I got this from Temu. I've done a video on this, so if you haven't seen that, go and have a look because this was really pretty, this one. So I'm going to do this one here. Now for these sort of things, for texture mats, you can generally feel the pattern, and again I'm holding on to it with one hand and then pressing with the other, making sure that it doesn't move. So there's always part of my hand or fingers on it holding it still, because again if you roll these they do shift, but generally with a bigger one like this you can tell where the pattern has printed and when it hasn't. I do it for longer than I think it needs to be, on the basis that I want the pattern to be fully imprinted. I don't want any kind of soft bits or anything, or sort of smudged bits. I don't really know what to call that, but I do it like that because then I know that it is completely done. And then I take it up and you'll have a nice raised pattern like this. This is one of my favourite ones. Again, squish it in a little bit, make sure it's not stretched in any way, or if you want to make it a tiny bit smaller you can by just pushing that in a little bit and sharpening up the edges. Talking about sharpening up the edges, what you can also do, let me grab my favourite plastic tool. Now this bit here, even though I did press it down, hasn't gone particularly good, so I would sharpen that by doing this around the outside, and then you'd be able to see it in a bit more detail. But quite often this is where I'd be cutting round, so I'd be using my craft knife. But yeah, you can do it like that if you wanted to, just to sharpen up the pattern. And then of course you could go all the way around here, but like I said, most of the time I would be cutting this out in full. Again, with this one on my finger, this is how I get messy. And then I just gently drag this over the top. I'll probably put a little bit too much on there. I normally tap it off quite a bit and put it all on the outside. Now these ones, this design can be used on anything. I'm thinking about making some really pretty hanging decorations for Christmas out of this, because I think these would look really nice on the tree. Yeah, if you can imagine these in white with sort of gold, and I could put some sort of gems on and things like that. I think they'd look really pretty, probably hanging upside down actually. So I would put a hole, I'm just going to use this random stuff here, I'll put a hole in the top here like that, and I would have it hanging from that sort of direction. I think that would look quite nice on the Christmas tree. And I'd probably cut them out, or you can make them circles, so you could get a cutter. I haven't got one big enough, but I would cut a part out of it, for example. Let's go here, and then just cut a part out of it, just randomly. Smooth the edges. I do this quite a lot on video, but I generally will get some baby oil to smooth all these edges out if this was going to be something that I was going to make. And then I'm going to grab, so you can use the end of a paintbrush as well if you wanted to. Let's see, let's go with the top here, put a little mark, and then I would use any dotting tool to press it in all the way through. Press it as far as you want it to go and how big you want the hole. This gives like a sort of a domed look as well. It's not sharp when you do it with the dotting tool. And then I'd go in from the back and do it from the back and go in like that. And then you get it nice and neat, both sides. I do it a couple of times. And then you could have that, if you wanted to, as a Christmas decoration and have round circles. So there's lots of kind of options that you can do. So I know I'm so pretty, but I'm going to roll this back up, and then I'm going to show you how to make the entirety of a blue piece of clay into a bronze piece of clay. So I'm going to roll this, and I am actually going to roll this off camera because I think this is going to take a little bit more time, and I don't think you want to hear me talking through all of that, so I'll be back. Right, so I've decided to chop this all up rather than roll it into a ball, and as you can see it's gone blue again, which is very odd, but anyway. I'm going to try something different. Now I normally talk about this, well, I normally try it all out and don't say anything, and then if it makes it into the tutorial it makes it. But this is kind of how I do things. I like to kind of experiment. I don't think, like I said before, I don't take things too seriously with clay. I like to experiment and see what happens. And then if it turns out good, then it goes on my channel. That's basically how I do it. I have got this. It is Cosmic Shimmer Gilding Flakes. I don't think these are any good really, but I'm going to try them anyway. I've barely used these. But now looking at them, I think these would be really good for autumn stuff that's coming up, like a spooky thing. I haven't used them in anything. I have got some plans for more spooky videos. There's some tougher bits in these, not really a fan. But I'm just going to sprinkle these all in here. I've got no idea what I'm doing, just so you know. I have only put the liquid polymer clay in there, and this one's by Fimo Liquid, as I now call it. I'm going to keep saying that because at some point I'll say Fimo, and yeah, you'll know why. And yeah, I don't generally use this very much, but I'm just gonna, I've seen this done quite a lot. where you sort of put liquid polymer clay with things, and then it gives it the stick, so it makes it, so it makes it stick again. So that's basically what I'm doing. I'm going to mix it all up. As I said, I've chopped it all up anyway. So put it all, squash it all back together. I've done this. I have seen people do this before, and I'm sure you have as well. But again, I like to experiment. So some people actually do this with alcohol inks. So they'll chop up some clay, and generally it's translucent, and they'll chop it all up, and then they'll put some sort of colour of what's it called? Can't think of what it's called. Alcohol inks on it, and then they will slice it, and it looks really cool. It looks like I want to say jade. It probably isn't jade. Anyway, it looks really cool, but this will turn out rubbish. I know it will, because I like to just mess about with stuff, and not everything goes well. But I'm going to see what this looks like anyway. So I'm going to chop it all up, and if it doesn't go well, then I will just make this whole thing bronze and go from there. So let's do that. It doesn't look too bad actually, a bit weird looking, but so then people put them all back together, I think. So I'm going to do that, and this is all really sticky now because obviously the liquid polymer clay is in there as well, so I get covered in clay as well. All goes up my nails, which is absolutely beautiful. And let's get a rolling pin on it, see what it looks like. And again, these sort of things are all really good for jewellery. I don't make jewellery, but every time I see something like this, I think, oh, I could just. And then I don't, because what would I do with it? Because I don't wear jewellery. I don't wear polymer clay jewellery. I could, but I just don't. But there we go, look at that. That's actually pretty cool. See, if I hadn't filmed this, there'd be no evidence that I created something like this. And that's pretty much why I film absolutely everything. When you've got something stuck to the table, always use a tissue blade to lift it so you don't tear it. So, and I go down at an angle, so it's sort of like that, and I'm scooping at the same time. One, it doesn't scratch the surface, and two, you generally, obviously hasn't worked, but you can then generally pick things up in one piece. Now, as you can see, there is an awful lot of liquid polymer clay in this. Probably should have used quite a lot less, but let's give it another roll, get it to bond together a bit better than what it had there. And again, squash it in. And if you were making something, so let's use that as our background. Let's use a tiny bit of this. Let's use just the middle bit here. Let's grab that. So we've got a, oh, that didn't work out, did it? Let's roll it. It's because it's not stuck back together properly. This is why I don't generally talk through tutorials, because I just mess about and hope for the best. And that's kind of what I do. But anyway, let's roll, let's see what happens. And then it might turn out even better. That's the way I look at it. And now, that sounds like it's going to be a bit better. If I've put too much oil in it, or liquid polymer clay, getting a piece of paper helps to sort of take out the stickiness a little bit. I haven't got anything I can reach for at the minute, but let's see. See, you know, it's cracking, but I really like that effect. Look at that. I like the cracked effect. Let's just grab that. Yeah, I mean, it's really sticky, but yeah, I really like that kind of cracked look. And you could bake it like that, and in effect make the crack show up a little bit more by stretching it, maybe. Yeah, that'll look really cool. But yeah, so liquid, I think what I was trying to show you is liquid. Fimo is what I quite often use, but I also use Sculpey as well. And then the other thing that I use is liquid Sculpey. I think this is the adhesive that I normally use, or it might not be. Translucent, just says translucent. Liquid polymer clay. Oh, okay, so this is liquid polymer clay, but I think this is really old because this is really sticky. Yeah, this is really sticky, but I also have some adhesive as well, which is really good. And if you're sticking two pieces of baked clay or baked clay and unbaked clay together, this stuff works really well. This kind of is a bit more runny, if you like. I mean, you can see how old this is. It takes a really, really long time to use up, but I like both, to be honest. A lot of my art materials have all got caked in something, but you know, this is what it's all about, I think. Okay, so I am going to turn this a completely different colour now. So I'm going to use a brush and lots, well, I say lots, some mica powder, and then let's see what colour we can make this. Let's dabble it all over, and what we will get is not a blue piece that's covered in cracks now. We will have a bronze piece covered in cracks. Of course I put them there on purpose, didn't I? And so let's get all this in, and I'm going to lift it with this still because it is really stuck. And then let's see what we can get. So let's make some more cracks, and of course with that you'll end up with all of that other bits and bobs, all of this stuff shining through as well. Oh, got some more stuck to me. Let's do this side just for funsies. Let's see what it does. And also this will dry out the clay a little bit as well. It won't be as sticky once this is on. Put that one here. Make it go all over. And this will really make this dirty, but we'll do it anyway. And then see what we got here. Yeah, so I think this will look really cool in some cool jewellery. The split and the blue showing through looks really good. I haven't got anything that would be classed as a small jewellery looking thing. The only thing I can do is use this. And I know no one wants to perhaps wear earrings this big, but I think this is a really cool look. And although it hasn't shown, you can't see some of the flakes all the way through, but there are little hints of the flakes, and the more you stretch it out, the more you're going to see them. So it gives you kind of like almost a rock sort of effect. Now, I hadn't planned on doing this, but this is how I make things. I always record, and then that way I have it recorded, and then I can put a video out showing how I made something, and I'll know how to make this again. So for me, it's kind of an experiment that all goes on YouTube. And if I felt even more fancy, I would just grab a few more pieces and then I would just put them on like this, and then you'd have a different background, get covered in it. It's exactly how I find the fun in life, just being covered in different pieces of clay. And although you think it looks a complete mess, I am actually going to put all of that now back in one and see what happens. And yeah, normally when I film, so I'll have like breaks, and you know, I'll stop filming for a bit and then I'll wash my hands. But of course, with the talking all the way through it, it kind of has to be a bit more, you know, continuous. I don't know if anyone can see this, but this is a frog that my friend made me. It's really cute, and it's just sat here because that's just where I left it. And I just spotted it thinking, oh, maybe should have moved that, but it's there. So, right, okay, so here we go. Re-rolled, and now it's a different shade. It's more grey now, and we've got some more swirls going on. A little bit less cracking, very sticky still. But yeah, I mean, anything like this can be used for beads. Just really unusual, you know, and I like that. So yeah, that is basically what happens with liquid polymer clay, gilding flakes. I have got gilding wax. I've used that before in a video, and I can do some more tutorials about gilding wax and what it does and how it works. But yeah, so with that, I've got a background. Let's grab another pattern. With this one, again, I am going to hold it with my fist and then press down either side. and it does flatten the clay a little bit as well, so I always make sure that the clay is a little bit thicker because I will be flattening it. And yeah, I'll do it like this, and once it's what I think it's done, it doesn't always work, but if it doesn't work I re-roll it and then I do it again. Once it's done, take this off, and now you've got a really cool design. Again, what I do is push it back together a little bit so it doesn't look like it's smudged or distorted in any way. Push it back together, and at this stage I'd have it on a tile because I'd want it to stay really still, and I could just then lift it up and put it straight into the oven as it is, whereas obviously this is just a trial. So with this I'm going to try a different colour. So I'm going to get, first one I come to, purple. Okay, now I'm going to pat this on. Now again, this will go, when you pat it on, it will go all the way in the cracks and everything, and you can have it like that. I need my big dusting one to get that off. And then if, this is going to be a bit more tricky with stuff hanging off my finger, but I'm going to give it a go. And then with this one, very, very gently on the top to highlight the outer pieces, the bits that are sticking up basically, and not the bottom pieces. So if you've got a really pretty base, a base colour that you want to show up, this would be the way you did it, like this here, and just gently doing the top. Sometimes I do get it on the middle, but I don't tend to make that particularly difficult. So if it happens, it happens. It's art at the end of the day, and I don't mind if things go a little bit wrong. So yeah, that is two ways to do it. So nice and thick. Now you could put this colour on and then top it with a different colour. So if you wanted the actual clay to turn purple, let's put it down again. And then you could then gently put this colour on top. You can layer mica powder, and then you'll have the base that's purple and the bronze on the top. Well, that was a lot of waffle. I've got nothing to show you because I didn't make anything. Well, I did make something, but you're going to see that in another video because this video is long enough. So effectively what you've got is an intro, a whole bunch of talking that you've probably gone to sleep by, and then me doing some more talking in the, what I'm considering this would be bloopers, although they're not bloopers. Very rarely do I get stuff wrong now, but yeah, I get stuck sometimes and I'm like blah, 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 every 5 seconds. You don't need to see all of that, however. But yeah, I've got nothing to show you because this video is long enough. I did make something from this video, but it is going to be in a later video on the basis that I think it would be nice for you to see a short one, just to see if you would prefer that. So, as I mentioned in the start, in the tutorial, listen to it. As I mentioned you'll get all of this, I'm not cutting it out. As I mentioned in the intro, you can now get videos translated into different, or dubbed into lots of different languages. There was someone that asked me a really long while ago now, and I forgot to mention it. Can I translate a video into a certain language? And forgive me, I cannot remember what that language was now, but you can dub me. As I said, if you do dub me, bear in mind that it may not translate properly, and if you don't understand something that you've dubbed me in, please write down in your own language. I will translate it and I will let you know what I said. I find that quite interesting because it came up on my YouTube sort of background area, my my studio area, and I thought, oh, you could dub them, and I actually tried it on one of the videos that I watched. It's really cool. But anyway, that is sort of the hint for today, or the tip if you like, and I will see you next time. So this is how you waffle through a video. That's not going to work, is it? Anyway, see you later, bye. I am dirty, I'm really, really dirty.